Hello and welcome back to my channel. These are my reactions to the Daytona 500 and the Daytona race weekend. I wanted to get this done a little earlier, but it's just been a pretty busy week, so I haven't been able to. I'm actually recording this on the Wednesday after the race, so about 3 or 4 days after the race is over, you'll probably be seeing this on either Thursday or Friday before Auto Club. But yeah, I had a few things I want to talk about the race this past weekend, and then I don't have anyone who my stock went down on, but I do have a few people that I had my stock go up on over the weekend, so I'll also address that. So the first talking point I wanted to talk about was the Fox broadcast. I was not home during the race, but I was watching the broadcast at a restaurant, so I didn't actually hear much of the actual broadcast. I did see the overabundance of commercials, which was annoying, especially I think it was the Chase Elliott and Eric Jones wreck, where they wrecked as they went to a side-by-side, and they stayed in commercial the entire side-by-side, as you could tell cars were wrecking, which was kind of annoying. I don't know what really could be done to fix that. I've seen a lot of people mention a streaming service. I know I would personally pay for a streaming service if they would offer commercial-free races, or just honestly anything, just less commercials, and maybe even a show or two, not just a race hub or something like that. Maybe different shows dedicated to tracks, or kind of a Lost Speedways type show with Dale Jr. or something like that. I would definitely sign up for a streaming service. I don't think commercial free racing will ever be a realistic option on a broadcast like ESPN does with Sky Sports, because ESPN's not paying for any of the actual broadcasting for Sky Sports. They're just paying for the rights to broadcast Sky Sports' broadcast, which costs a lot less, as they don't have to employ the TV pundits, they don't have to employ broadcasters and all the camera equipment. All they need to do is basically pay Sky Sports for the right to show their version of the race. So yeah, I don't think a fully commercial-free race would ever be possible, but we can all hope and dream that it may become possible at some point. The second thing I want to talk about was just the overall racing at Daytona. It was a pretty calm race for the majority of the races. I don't think there was a caution for an actual wreck until almost lap 100 or something, which is pretty unusual, I would say, for Daytona. And just seemed like a very respectable race. They weren't through wide a lot. They were too wide for much of the race, which was nice. Kind of seeing a different stylus plate racing than we've seen in the past. I wonder if this is something that's going to stay, or as the drivers become more comfortable with these cars, especially with the safety, because it's something we saw at Talladega, kind of the same thing last October. Or the drivers kind of concerned at pushing it early in case of wrecking, because they may not be 100% sold on safety. Of course, towards the end of the race, everything hits the fan, because it's at the end of the day, they're all going for the Daytona 500. But if early in the race, that's not as big of a point, you're not currently competing for the 500 win like you are, but you're still 100 laps away from it. I think they want to race cleaner right now, just because it's not worth it to wreck a bunch of cars and risk injury at the rate, with 200 laps to go almost. And then the third thing I wanted to talk about, at least, was Ricky Stenhouse winning. So this is Stenhouse's first win in 6 years, which is insane. And it's nice to see him back in victory lane. It's good to see JTG Doherty back in victory lane, but it does kind of provide an interesting question, how will they do for the rest of the season? They're now basically locked into the playoffs no matter what happens, due to the new rule that if they're outside top 30 in points, they can make the playoffs. But it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of take this 500 win in a similar way to how Michael McDowell did in 2021 and 2022. How after he won that race, he stayed in the top 16 of points until I want to say New Hampshire or something over the summer. And then of course 2022, last year, Michael McDowell had a career high in top 10s. I wonder if we can see a similar improvement from Ricky Stenhouse, which would be cool, because I do like JTG Doherty racing. I think everyone likes to see them do well, especially with the passion that Brad Doherty at least has shown in the past, when AJ Allmendinger won that race. And it'd be cool to see them competing up front more and more often. So yeah, that's really my three main talking points about the race, but I did have a few guys who my stock went up on. I didn't actually have anyone who my stock went down on because it was a pretty good race at Daytona. And like even the guys who didn't do great are guys that I think they were just products of just wrecking. Like Eric Jones didn't finish well, Chase Elliott didn't finish well, Tyler Reddick didn't finish well. A lot of these guys probably would have done better if it was a normal race. But yeah, so I have a team and a driver who my stock are up on. For the driver, it's going to be Ricky Stenhouse. I did not project Ricky to do basically anything this season. If I maybe would get like a top 10 or two. But he starts the year off with a win. I feel like that's a big confidence booster. It's something I didn't expect them or that team to be able to do this season. But yeah, so my stock's definitely high on them, especially going to a track that they last year finished in top 10. I think they finished 9th or 10th last year at Auto Club. So maybe we could see them roll it into back-to-back top 10 finishes to start the season off and maybe continue more momentum as the season goes on. The team that my stock is up on, I'm going to have to go with RCR. Yet again, they've impressed me more than I think they ever could have. I only had them winning one race combined this season, and that would have been Kyle Busch winning the season finale, or the regular season finale at Daytona. That's making that the way they performed so far at the Clash, the duels, and the 500. That makes me look stupid. Honestly, I could see them both winning 3 races this season. They've both run up front basically in everything except the duel. I think Austin kind of struggled in his duel, but besides that, they both ran up front. Kyle could have won all 3, honestly, and Austin could have won 2 of the 3 they've done. I'm excited to see what they can do. They're looking great. I would say they're looking way better than they did last year, even with them getting 4 wins last year. Right now, I would say they're on pace for probably 5 or 6. It's an exciting time to be an RCR fan. I would say if you are a big RCR fan, this is probably the best shot they've had to win a championship in a long time. And I think that Kyle Busch winning the title this year is a very realistic possibility. And a deep playoff run from Austin Dillon is not out of the question either. I also did think of one driver who my stock is down on. That's going to be Ty Dillon. Ty had a really rough weekend. He finished last in the duel, and last in his duel, and last in the 500 after an engine failure. I don't think it's going to get much better for Ty this season. I think it's going to be a rough year. I think the 77 is probably going to be the worst full-time car. Either that or the 51 at Rick Ware, which I just think the Rick Ware car just isn't as good, but I honestly don't know which car I'd pick to be worse at the end of this regular season. At the end of the season, who I think would be lower in points between him and Cody Ware. But I do not expect a good season out of the 77. I think it's going to be a struggle season. I think they're going to really have tough time adapting, and I think, honestly, at the end of this season, Spire should very seriously consider selling this charter. Just focus all the resources on the 7 car, because there is some potential in that 7 car. The 77 just hasn't really shown on a consistent basis outside of basically when Landon Castle drove it last year, which I don't expect Landon to be back in it at all this year. Well, he won't be because Ty's full-time. But I just don't know if Ty could give the team that moment that Landon was able to give them at Daytona last year, or even Jamie McMurray gave him a few seasons ago. I just think the 77 as a full-time entry is probably on the way out after this season, just because the charters are worth so much right now. And I feel like if they were to sell this charter to a team that would want it a lot, like I could see both RCR looking to expand to possibly get Austin Hill into a Cup seat, or JRM possibly trying to move up to the Cup Series next year. I feel like if either of them are willing to buy that charter, I think they should 100% sell it. You get a ton of money for it, and then you can invest that money into the 7 car and possibly have a more competitive 7 car, and at least be on the fringe of a playoff contender, if not winning a race at Talladega or in Atlanta or Daytona, which Corey has shown us that he can run well to at least be in position to do that, and they just need the right luck to be able to actually win it. So that's all I have for Daytona. I'm super excited for Auto Club this weekend, the last Auto Club race on the 2-mile oval, and that will definitely be something that we're going to talk about next week, is should they go away from the 2-mile oval or not, as they are currently planning on going to that the half-mile short track. So it'll be interesting to see that. I'm excited to see kind of how the season really starts, because, like, as Christopher Bell said after his post-race interview at Daytona, that the season really starts at Auto Club. That's where we're really going to tell who's going to be good, who's going to struggle, stuff like that. Like, if we look back to Auto Club last year, yeah, there were a few stories that weren't quite on yet. Like, Ross Chastain wrecked, and of course Ross had a great season, but like, Logano ran well, Kyle Larson ran well, Chase Elliott ran up front, but he had a few issues throughout the race. Tyler Reddick ran well. Kyle Busch kind of struggled throughout the race. The Toyotas as a whole kind of had a rough race. That was a good preview. We also saw, like, Daniel Suarez almost won that race. And of course, he was up front a lot last season, and so was Eric Jones. That was kind of his breakout last year. So yeah, Auto Club's going to be a very important race to kind of tell us how the season's going to look, I would say, after, well, for the rest of the 35 races we have left this season. So yeah, I'm super excited. I hope that you will come back next week to tune in and listen to my thoughts about that race. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe.